no more.
I got the horses in the back, horse stock is attacked. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, you can whip your Porsche. I've been in the valley, you can't nobody tell me nothing. Nobody tell me.
A pleasant good evening to you folks, and welcome into a brand new episode of Wild Sports Talk here on this Monday night. I hope you guys are all doing great and having a fabulous start to your brand new week. And to all the mothers out there, we want to wish you guys all a belated Mother's Day out to all of you guys. My name is Isaiah Leung. I'm joining you guys from the sunny San Francisco Bay. I am back from my trip to San Diego. It was an amazing trip. I was, really joyful, really relaxed on that trip. It was great to, just have a week off, be on vacation for a week, and then come back. But I'm also joined by my guy, Lo-Ro. Lo-Ro, man, thank you so much for holding it down last week while I was gone. You did a fantastic job. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, my man. And how's life?
Life's good, man. Looking forward to today's show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, especially a lot of NBA stuff because of the playoffs starting, and then a lot of baseball and a lot of football stuff to be talked about as well, since Tim Tebow is now a Jacksonville Jaguar.
Yeah, definitely, man. We got a lot of stuff to get into tonight's show, but we're also joined by a very special guest and a guy that I know very well. And me and Gabe, who's joining us tonight on our show, we go back a long time, man. We have this, intense rivalry when it comes to fantasy football and fantasy basketball. I would say the signature moment of our rivalry was when I beat Gabe in our fantasy football final, something I still won't let him live down to this day. But Gabe, welcome on to Wild Sports Talk, man. I hope you had a great weekend. How's life?
Hey, man, life's great. I'm here in San Antonio. Weather's great. Food is great. And, man, sports is always here. Sports is always here. And Isaiah, you're always looking for your eternal rival, so that's where I love to be.
And speaking of which, me and Gabe, before we get this show started, we're happy and proud to announce that we both will be doing a podcast here on the MI6 Sports Network. I don't think we figured out a day for the show, but we are going to be trying to put out a podcast episode like once a month. So make sure you guys, keep that in your calendars. Me and Gabe will be doing a new football and basketball related podcast called GI Sports that will be coming your way. I believe this week or next week we'll start the show. But folks, as usual, make sure you guys check out our MI6 Sports Network Facebook page. Try to find the link to that Facebook page right now. But check it out, give us a like on that page, and also go to our YouTube channel. You guys can go check our podcast videos out, as well as our MI6 short clips that we have on our MI6 Sports Network YouTube channel. Go check that out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also go check out our website for various articles that the cast and crew here at MI6 have written, and also you can find our podcast on there. And a quick look at the comments section before we get started with the sports talk tonight. My guy, James Gonzalez, tunes in. He says, hi, everyone. What's going on, James? Thank you so much for tuning in to our show tonight. Also, my guy, Callan McClurg, he tunes in tonight and he says, hey, Leung, you're being watched. Callan, I'm so glad that you're watching the show tonight, and I can't wait to you come back in a couple of weeks. And also, James says, really like the Spurs jersey Gabe has on. Gabe, who is that on the back of that Spurs jersey, by the way?
Man, it's the one and only Patty Thrills, my man. Patty Thrills, baby.
Oh, he's a good player.
We love our veterans here. We love our veterans.
Hey, he's very sneaky player for the Spurs, man. A guy that just comes off the bench and can give you like a double-double every time he steps on the court. And also, the MI6 Sports Network just has to remind me about this. And this is, remember, Isaiah said it would be a cakewalk in our fantasy basketball league. Yes, I said it was going to be a cakewalk, and then all my players went down with injuries, and now I'm literally sitting in last place in our fantasy basketball league. So it's an embarrassing moment that, we'll never talk about here on this show. But fellas, moving into our NBA segment, we'll start tonight on the hardwood. The Los Angeles Lakers, who were in 7th place and slated to be in the play-in tournament, they hosted the Phoenix Suns last night at the Staples Center, and Anthony Davis puts up 42 points and leads the Lakers to a big win over the Phoenix Suns, 123-110, the final score. And now, today we have news coming from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN and Shams Charania of Stadium that LeBron James is expected to return tomorrow night from his ankle injury against the New York Knicks. Lo-Ro, I'll start with you because you're one of our resident Laker fans here on this panel. After the Lakers' big win versus the Phoenix Suns last night, and now you get the news that LeBron James is coming back tomorrow. Are you confident now that the Los Angeles Lakers will get a top 6 seed in the West and avoid the play-in tournament?
I absolutely am confident that the Lakers will get a top 6 seed in the West, because I feel like that the Lakers in a play-in tournament would kind of make me anxious, just because I feel like that those are just elimination. That's just a one-game elimination type game. But I just want the Lakers to get LeBron back tomorrow. I expect him to play great tomorrow and also play great on Wednesday against the Rockets. But I think that the Lakers, with LeBron back, I think this should be enough for the Lakers to get that number 6 spot in the Western Conference.
All right, Gabe, I'll turn it over to you next, my man. You are a Spurs fan. You obviously have deep hatred for the Los Angeles Lakers. But after watching the Lakers and their big win last night over the Phoenix Suns, and now you get the news that LeBron James is coming back to the Lakers lineup tomorrow night against the New York Knicks, are you confident that the Lakers are going to get a top 6 seed and avoid the play-in tournament in the West? Or do you still think the Lakers, they have such a hard road ahead, and Portland, they've got an easy road ahead, and they are a couple of games ahead of the Lakers, I believe. Do you still believe the Lakers are going to get a top 6 seed, or do you think Portland holds on?
Well, first of all, I think, of course, LeBron James is one of the players. When he's coming back, of course, he's going to make tremendous impact. It's like the Currys, they change the game. But I think even with LeBron, of course, they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't see them getting that 6th spot. I think they're going to be in the play-in tournament. And again, like some games, they've been like just not playing the best. Because I think before the LeBron coming back, they've had like a really bad skid of games, past like 10, 12 games, and I just don't foresee a big difference. Especially too, they might be resting players pretty soon, don't you think? At this current pace, and Damian Lillard got to win a bet for that. You heard about Damian Lillard bet? He got to win a certain amount of games for some guy's house or something. So I don't know about the Lakers.
Fellas, last night brought a bit of optimism for me because I was so down on the Lakers prior to that game. The Lakers had a bunch of guys missing the game last night because of injury, whether it was Kuzma with the back or other guys with ankle or various leg injuries. And I just thought that, first of all, I thought that Devin Booker, with how bad the Lakers perimeter defense has been and how injured the Lakers were and how many bodies that they were missing, I thought Devin Booker was going to equal his 70-point record performance last night against the Lakers, because I just didn't think the Lakers were going to be able to stop Devin Booker. But not only did they stop Devin Booker, but they got off to a great start. Their defense was tenacious in that first half that got them off to this amazing start. And Anthony Davis showed why he's one of the top 5 players in basketball with his performance yesterday, just putting the Lakers on his back and just out-muscling the Phoenix Suns in the paint. The Phoenix Suns had literally no answer for Anthony Davis in last night's game. And if AD can continue to play like that, and with LeBron returning, I do think that the Lakers could upset Portland and get that 6th spot in the West. Because when you look at Portland's upcoming schedule. It's really, really tough. I believe they've got the Rockets tonight, and then they play at the Utah Jazz. Then they play at the Phoenix Suns, and I don't think the Phoenix Suns are going to be resting their players since them and the Jazz are vying for that number one seed and home court advantage throughout the Western Conference playoffs. And then I believe they play the Denver Nuggets afterwards. So those 3 games, you're facing the top 3 teams in the Western Conference to end the season. And when you look at the Lakers' schedule, I believe the Lakers have the New York Knicks coming up tomorrow night. And then after that, they've got the Houston Rockets, another really bad team. And I think they might be resting their players because they want to get the top lottery pick. Then the Lakers got the Indiana Pacers, a team that's not really that good, and they're on the bubble when it comes to the Eastern Conference playoffs. And then they have at the New Orleans Pelicans to end the season, and the Pelicans are going to be missing Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. So I do think the Lakers are going to get that 6th spot just because I think the Lakers have the easier schedule than Portland. I think Portland goes 0-3 in those 3 games against the Jazz, the Suns, and the Denver Nuggets. And I think the Lakers, when you look at their schedule, I could easily see them, go 4-0 and sweeping their final 4 games in their final 4 games. And going into our comment section, we had a lot of guys coming in via the comment box. The MI6 Sports Network says you can't trust Portland in the playoffs. Definitely, for sure. You just can't trust the Blazers in the playoffs. They always choke in the postseason. James Gonzalez says the Suns were basically behind all game. Very disappointing loss by Phoenix. Definitely, for sure. And James also says, funny how everyone was down on the Lakers last week, and now they are back. Hey, it's because LeBron is returning, man. When you get a guy like that returning, the switch just flips just like that. And also, James says, sad but true. James also says Ayton only had 5 points for the Phoenix Suns. He was definitely a big disappointment for the Suns last night. And also, James says yesterday would have been a game for him to break out. I think he's referring to Devin Booker. But the Lakers, they did a great job of shutting down Devin Booker, which was really impressive of what Frank Vogel and his coaching staff dialed up. I just didn't expect that. But, Gabe, I'll go back to you on this. You look at the Lakers' schedule and the Blazers' schedule now. Do you think Portland, with the tough schedule ahead that they have, do you think Portland can manage to hold on to that number 6 seed?
Here's the thing about Portland. We said they can't be trusted in the playoffs. That's true. But Portland usually they're sending teams, at least one team home in the playoffs. Whether that's a game winner from a series winner from Dame. But I think he's one of those players that really they blossom under pressure. And to have this advantage over the Lakers, I don't think they're going to let it go too easily. I mean, the Lakers are the ones are trying to avoid that play-in tournament. Would you want to play a hot Curry and some of those other teams, or a good job in that play-in tournament? Nah, it's not it.
Lo-Ro, how about you, man? When you look at the Lakers schedule and the Trailblazers upcoming schedule, and you also look at the fact that, the Blazers are probably going to be facing the top 3 teams in the West to end the season, are you more confident now that the Lakers will get that 6th spot in the West?
Absolutely. I think so, because the Lakers should beat the Knicks. I think the Knicks are kind of 50-50 because the Knicks have been the Cinderella story of the NBA this season, because you got Coach Thibodeau turning that team around. Derrick Rose has been looking like the Derrick Rose of old. And I also think that with the Blazers schedule being so tough these last 3 games, they're probably going to be dropping down in the Western Conference playoffs. And that's why I think that the Lakers are going to win these last 3 games that they have coming up, so that the Lakers could be the number 6 seed in the West. And hopefully, and I would like to see a Lakers-Clippers showdown in the first round.
See, Lo-Ro, that's where me and you disagree. As another Laker fan, I don't want to see the Clippers in the first round, especially with LeBron banged up and just coming back from injury, and also Anthony Davis. We we've seen him like go down with injuries in the past. With this Lakers team and how they're all coming back from injury and they're trying to get their chemistry together, I think facing the Clippers in round one would be an utter disaster. That's why I think that, and this is going to my second question. If you're the Lakers right now, would you guys rather, tank your upcoming games and go into the play-in tournament and play a one game against the Warriors and then potentially play against Phoenix in the first round, or, try to win all the games that you have on your schedule upcoming and go play the Clippers in the first round? Gabe, I'll start with you on that. What do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say me, Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want the Clippers first round. I mean, you want if you're going to want the Suns first round, even though the Suns are a second or first seed. We got to see how they hold up in the playoffs. And we mentioned Aiden earlier. Aiden is their X factor, in my opinion. He was a high draft pick a couple years back, and I'm expecting a lot out of him if they can make it to the series. You got some people saying that Chris Paul should be MVP over Jokers right now. So I love CP3, but it's joke season right now. But I think the Lakers are going to take the easy route. Whatever way that is just not the Clippers first round.
It's something, in my opinion, Gabe. I just want Lakers Clippers in the playoffs. I think it would be good for the city of LA, and I think that the Lakers can get revenge on the Clippers because the Lakers got swept by the Clippers 3 times in the regular season, and I just want revenge on the Clippers, and I want to make fun of the Clippers superfan, Clipper Darrell.
Hey, that would be an intense series, I'll tell you that. It would probably be like the best first round series that we've seen in like the last 8 to 10 years. If the Lakers were to play the Clippers in the first round. And my guy Adam Barber says the Suns don't have enough big man. That's their biggest problem. That's why the Suns, I believe, would get exposed by the Lakers if they met up in a best of 7 game series. But fellas, moving into our second topic, and we go to the Lakers' biggest rival in the NBA, and that is the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics last night, fellas, fell to the Miami Heat 130 to 124. They were down by as much as 23 points in this game. They lose to the Heat 130 to 124, and they drop their 3rd consecutive game. And now there's news from Woj and Shams that Jaylen Brown, the Celtics All-Star, is done for the year with torn ligaments in his wrist. So, Lo-Ro, I'll start with you first on this. What is one word that you would use to describe the Celtics season, and do you believe that Boston can somehow bounce back and make a deep postseason run?
I think the Boston Celtics season is defined with injuries. They just can't stay healthy because, I heard today that Jaylen Brown is out for the season, and that is a huge loss to the Boston Celtics. But I think that assuming that Jason Tatum is on his game, he's a player to watch in the playoffs. And if he has a good playoffs, then I do think that the Celtics can make a deep run in the postseason like they did last year, which I think they can, because I think they're a team that you can't sleep on because you got Tatum, you got Fournier has been a good addition to that bench. Marcus Smart's really their leader. So with Jaylen Brown out for the rest of the season, Marcus Smart has to increase his leadership duties. That's for sure. But I think that the Celtics can make it deep, but I just think that they need another star to go with Tatum. That way they have a complete super team in the East.
Gabe, how about you, my man? We had the news earlier today that Jaylen Brown is now done for the year because of a wrist injury. And with the Celtics, they are currently slated to be the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs and play in the play-in tournament. And the Celtics, I believe, right now are 35 and 33. It's just been a disappointing season all around for the Boston Celtics. What is one word that you would use to describe the Celtics season? And also, are the Celtics just done now?
I just say underperforming. I mean, it's not all their part. It's not all their fault. There's other variables, other factors. But I think they're done. Brown is coming into his game, and watching him play over the last year or two, is it's just really great to see. You know, Tatum. I mean, I watched that Spurs game when Tatum dropped 60 on us. He can't do that every night. He can't do that every night. So, the Celtics are gonna have to figure it out, but they don't have enough time. And if you look at these other teams, the Sixers, the Nets, the Bucks, once they get in the playoffs, if they, I mean, they're going to. I don't foresee them not making it. They're in 7 right now, but if they have to play those teams, they're going to be out.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gabe. I think right now when you look at the Boston Celtics, well, the word that I would use to describe their season is disaster. Because the Boston Celtics coming into this season, I expected them to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe even go to the NBA Finals. Because I thought last year, the Celtics, I thought they got unlucky against the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. And they had, they returned basically their entire squad. And, with Tatum taking another step forward in his development, Jaylen Brown, I thought he was going to, continue to play great basketball. Kemba Walker, if he could stay healthy, he would be a great third option for the Celtics. And then they added Tristan Thompson in the offseason, which I thought was a great addition for the Boston Celtics to help, fill in that void that they have in the paint. I thought the Celtics were definitely going to, go to the Eastern Conference Finals at least, and then maybe go to the NBA Finals. But, injuries have ravaged them. COVID has ravaged them, and just inconsistency both on offense and defense. And now they're, 35 and 33. They're only 2 games over 500. They're 7th in the East right now. And I don't think anybody could have foreseen what would be coming with the Boston Celtics this year. And right now, I honestly don't even know if the Celtics could even get out of the play-in tournament, because when you look at the play-in right now, they're the 7th seed and they're projected to play the 8th place team, which is the Charlotte Hornets. You can make an argument that Charlotte might take out Boston in the first round because the Celtics have such lack of chemistry issues. Jaylen Brown is now done for the year. There's just so much chaos going on in Boston, and I could see LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets upsetting the Celtics in the play-in tournament. And if they can get past the Charlotte Hornets, they would be the 7th seed, and they would play the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm taking Milwaukee all day, any day of the week over the Boston Celtics, especially now with the news that Jaylen Brown is out for the year.
Hey, wouldn't you rather watch Terry Rozier and LaMelo go against some Celtics? And Scary Terry, man. He had clutch moments this whole year. I love watching him play. And I mean, you got the Wizards at 9. They're only 3 games behind from the Celtics. I mean, Westbrook I think he just broke the record for most triple doubles. I think today, or it was either today or yesterday. I mean, Bradley Beal, I love that man. So I don't know. They're not looking good. They're in danger.
Yeah, I agree. I think Boston, they're going to make the playoffs, but I just don't see them either getting out of the play-in or even getting out of the first round. But, Lo-Ro, you wanted to add something, or are you?
No, I mean, what I was going to say is that I agree with what Gabe said. I mean, I think that the Celtics, without Jaylen Brown, they're going to look lost. Like you said, if they play Milwaukee, then they're going to probably get swept. But I kind of think that the Celtics team right now, if you look at it, they look done right now.
They look like the Philadelphia 76ers of last year, where they had so many injuries, they had so many chemistry issues, and they just couldn't get it together. And then they made the playoffs because they have talent, but then they ended up getting swept in the first round by, I believe it was the Boston Celtics that swept the Philadelphia 76ers last year in the bubble. But going into our comment section, James Gonzalez, he says, even as a Clipper rooter, I have no trust in the Clippers in the postseason. James also says, I got CP3 for MVP. I think that's very debatable. Let's see. My guy Freddie Henderson tunes in. He says the Lakers will dominate the NBA, or they would dominate the NBA. Better be afraid. If LeBron and AD are fully healthy and they have, their chemistry issues fixed, then I think they would dominate. The MI6 Sports Network says James Gonzalez, Celtics can't watch or can't catch a break injury-wise. Totally agree with you. James also says the Brown injury basically kills any chance that Boston has, but hopefully I'm wrong 100%, James. And also James says or Christy actually says the Celtics are getting hit with the injury bug at the absolute worst time. Totally agree with you on that, Christy. And also, Casey King, he tunes in. He says, good evening, guys. What's going on, Casey? Thank you so much for tuning into our show tonight. We really appreciate you. My guy, Adam Barber, says the Celtics are way underachieving. Again, they need another big man, and losing Gordon Hayward was rough. I thought Hayward was a great fit for them. Gabe, you forgot one guy when talking about the Celtics Hornets potential play-in game, and that is Gordon Hayward. That guy's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder against the Boston Celtics if they were to meet up in the play-in, man. My gosh, I could see Gordon Hayward just absolutely going off in that series or in that play-in game just to prove that Boston was wrong to let him go.
Hey, he wanted a bigger role. Here's the time to show it all his worth.
Totally agree, man. Casey also says the Celtics, they won't get past the first round. They're hurting. Totally agree with you. Also, James says, perfect comparison by Isaiah with last year's Philadelphia 76ers. That's what the Boston Celtics look like right now. But, fellas, before we move off the Celtics topic, there's been a lot of rumors swirling around Brad Stevens and his job security with the Boston Celtics. Do you guys think that Brad Stevens could be in trouble if, let's say, the Celtics lose in the play-in to the Hornets, or they get out of the play-in and then get swept by the Milwaukee Bucks after this, underachieving season that they've had right now? Lo-Ro, I'll start with you first on this. What do you think about that?
I'm going to say no. Brad Stevens is the right fit to be the head coach of the Boston Celtics. I think he's great with young players. I think during his tenure as the Boston Celtics head coach, the front office has drafted so well to put the Boston Celtics into prime success.
How about you, Gabe? What do you think? Like Brad Stevens, do you think that he would get the axe and get the blame for the Celtics season if, let's say, the Celtics lose to the Hornets in the play-in, or, get swept and lose like embarrassingly to the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round?
Brad Stevens here to say, he's loved by the fans, the city, the management. They're just having their struggles. Like I said, things beyond their control. There's some things in their control, but some things out. But they're going to give them chances, and he'll turn them around. I don't know what that answer is yet, but he'll figure it out, and they will figure out as an organization.
Yeah, I got to agree with you guys. I think that Brad Stevens, he's a great coach. And there's just sometimes where, you get bit by the injury bug, get ravaged by injuries. And this year with COVID, it's just a really, unique year. There's just so many circumstances working against Brad Stevens. And, the Celtics, they will be fine. I think they just need another star, just like I think Adam made that point. But I would not fire Brad Stevens, because if you fire Brad Stevens, I guarantee you Brad Stevens would get another job in less than 5 minutes. That's how great of a coach he is and how wanted he is in the NBA. And Casey also says, it would not surprise him if Brad Stevens ends up with the Indiana Pacers if he does get canned. And also, James says, I'd give Brad Stevens a pass on this season. But moving on to our third NBA topic of the night, and we go to your Spurs, Gabe, in San Antonio. The San Antonio Spurs right now, I believe they're currently sitting at – the Spurs currently sit at 10th in the Western Conference. They are just in to the Western Conference play-in tournament. If the season were to end today, they are 32-35. They are 2 games back of the Grizzlies for the 9th spot in the West. They are also 2.5 back of the Golden State Warriors for the 8th spot in the West, and they are 2.5 games ahead of the New Orleans Pelicans for the final play-in spot in the Western Conference playoff. Gabe, I will start with you because you're our Spurs fan on this panel. Do you believe that your Spurs will fend off the other teams and make the play-in tournament in the West?
I had to take a deep breath for that one. Your heart always wants, you want your team, want to see your team do the best. But look at the teams. You got the Lakers at 7, Warriors 8, Grizzlies 9, and you got 11, you got the Pelicans and Kings right on them. If they maintain the position for the play-in tournament, I just don't see them right now at this moment in time getting past these teams and making it into the playoffs. I know we lost the streak last year, the playoffs. It was either the last year or the year before, and that was heartbreaking. But I just don't see it. We're having a lot of problems right now. At the beginning of the season, we had injury bugs as well. At the beginning it was definitely more COVID. We had a lot of COVID issues in the beginning, and the injuries are still stacking up as well now. And we just have a lot of, we can say rotational stuff, but we're still trying to figure things out. Our veteran Patty, we got some players that are kind of in a slump right now. We're not closing out games. And even to the point where I'm hearing people saying, you asked, does Brad Stevens needs to go? I heard people saying Popovich needs to go. And I'm hearing that in San Antonio. That's not the most popular opinion, but having that conversation in the air right now is something to think about. Something need to be mixed up. I just think there's so many young players, and there's just so many players we don't really know where to put all of them. What are we gonna do all that? We're trying to figure out our backup center right now. With Dang, we got Eubanks, Hogan's at our starter. There's just so many questions. Lonnie Walker, he can play more. We want him to score more. Then we got Kendall, we got Johnson, we got all these people, and you can't point to who our guy is. And I just don't. The team hasn't looked as the normal, beautiful Spurs, the beautiful ball movement. I mean, you got streaks of it, but it's just you don't see it this year. It's kind of missing.
Gabe, I don't know if you would agree with this stance that I have on the Spurs, and that is, I just think the Spurs are just in this, this phase where it's they're not at the top to be a legit title contender. They're not bad enough to be a lottery team. They're just stuck in the unwanted territory of just not being good enough to compete for title, but not being bad enough to, compete or to get a lottery pick. They're just stuck in the middle right now. And I just think for the Spurs, I think right now when you look at it, I think they are going to make the play-in tournament because the Pelicans, Zion's out, Brandon Ingram's out for the year. It looks like the Pelicans are done, and I just see the Spurs holding on to that the final play-in spot in the West. But I don't see them getting past the Grizzlies in the play-in tournament because the Grizzlies, they got Ja Morant, they got a lot of young athletic players on the team, and for the Spurs, what I think the Spurs should do, and this will probably be a very unpopular opinion, but I think the Spurs, they should tear it down. They really should. They should tear it down and just rebuild because you're just stuck in the middle right now, and you're contending or you're competing to try to make the play-in tournament. And if you make the play-in tournament, yeah, that's good and all, but you'll just get bounced out in a one-game winner-take-all play-in tournament. So I think the Spurs, they should just tear it down. That's the best way the Spurs should go and just rebuild, because if you do that, then maybe you can just – I know it's going to take a couple of years, but then maybe you can build a true contender instead of being stuck in that middle. But Lo-Ro, I'll go to you next on this. What do you think, man? Do you think the Spurs will fend off the other teams right now in the West and make the play-in tournament?
I think the Spurs will make the play-in tournament, but like what you said, Isaiah, if they do, then they probably are going to get eliminated from this play-in tournament, or if they go to the first round, they're probably going to get swept easily. I just kind of think I'm going to go back to what you said. They probably could tear this roster down, which I think that could happen, just so that they can rebuild, get the players that they want on their rebuilding team, so that in the future they could save all that money and reserve that cap space, so that they can use that cap space to build around that roster in the future. Probably not in the next 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also, this might also be a very unpopular opinion. And Gabe, you might leave the set after hearing this, but I thought Greg Popovich should have taken the Nets job last year if offered. I really thought he should have taken the Nets job because it's right now you're just stuck in a team that, like I said earlier, you're stuck with a team that is not good enough to contend for a title, not bad enough to get a lottery pick. You're just stuck in that unwanted middle territory. And if you had gone to the Nets, dude, you could have competed for a title right now at like this stage of your career when you're I think Greg Popovich is like 70 instead of being just stuck in this unwanted middle territory.
I think it boils down to we just need to figure out how we're going to start the next era. Whether that is coaching, like you said, are they going to move? Should we move on from Pop? Should we give Becky her shot, or someone else? I think Becky should get a shot. But like I said, Pop elevates any player he's around. He elevates him. But you can argue, like Tim, Ginobili, and Parker, they were the perfect people for his system. And of course, other people can get into that. I'm not saying these players aren't into that and they can't get into it. It's just that they're not as perfectly, as the other ones were. As Timmy was, and all of them. They just need to figure out which players, like y'all said, which players are going to be our future. Who are we going to keep? Who should we get rid of? Aldridge left. Then he unfortunately retired. DeMar, I love DeMar, but I just don't see DeMar there long term. I was surprised when he still was here this season, to be honest with you. Or this would have been his jersey. But again, I think it's time for a change, a big change.
Yeah, the Spurs, they need to do something this offseason because they're just stuck in the middle right now. You don't want to be that team being stuck in the middle. But going into our comment section, James Gonzalez says the Spurs just got to get in and play their best, honestly. It would be great if they could play their best, but I just don't think they're talented enough to get past the Memphis Grizzlies in that playing tournament, in the playing game, if they were to get in. Casey also says the Spurs, they will get beat in the play-in game. James says the Spurs, I think, are in the process, truthfully. Also, Casey says the Spurs, they definitely need to rebuild, like we've been saying here on the air. And James says the Spurs, they should trade up in the next draft and find a great fit for their future. And James also says, I would love to see Becky Hammon be the next head coach of the Spurs. I think she would be a perfect fit for the San Antonio Spurs. But fellas, moving into our fourth NBA topic of the night, and it comes from Cleveland, Ohio, where we had a little scuffle last night between the Cavs and the Spurs involving Luka Doncic, the superstar of the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic was ejected for this flagrant foul against Cleveland Cavaliers guard Collin Sexton in last night's Cavs-Mavs game. We have a video of it. Let's play it right now.
Too slow. We mentioned 2 nights ago that Doncic is sitting on 15 technicals. One more will earn him a suspension by league rule. Okoro with the shot clock winding down. We have a loose ball foul called on Doncic. It happened before the clock hit 0. You can see the clock in the background. Yep, if that's the foul right there, then it was clearly before.
After replay review, the play is ruled a flagrant foul, penalty 2 for the aggressive strike into the groin area.
Well, there we go. Luka Doncic has been ejected. He has gotten a flagrant 2, and we started to say where the blow takes place, and there you see the reaction. He can't believe it.
First of all, look at those eyes by Luka, man. Someone could just make a mask of those eyes by Luka when he was realizing that he got thrown out of the game and just put it on as a Halloween costume and you would scare a bunch of people. But, Lo-Ro, I'll start with you first on that. You saw the flagrant foul against Luka Doncic for the groin shot against Collin Sexton in last night's Cavaliers-Mavericks game. Do you believe that Luka deserved to be thrown out of that game for that flagrant foul?
I would say no. I mean, all he was just doing incidental contact. And I think that this play was definitely controversial. I didn't think it was intentional for him to do that, but I just felt like that's what the refs saw. They just got the call wrong.
Gabe, I think, when I looked at that play, when I watched it, I thought that Collin Sexton flopped a little. I thought he flopped a little, especially when he was like, oh my god, and he like fell to the ground. I was like, bro, you don't really have to do that because that like he didn't even really like push you all that hard. It was just like a semi push. So I don't believe that Luka deserved to be kicked out for that flagrant foul. I thought that would have been a flagrant one at best, maybe for that, low shot to the groin area. But what is your thoughts on it, Gabe? Do you believe that Luka Doncic deserved to be kicked out for that foul against Collin Sexton?
First of all, to answer the question, no, he shouldn't have been gone out. Like the refs have been so bad this year, and you just gotta let some plays play out. And that was just like two competitive people, having a little moment. Sexton did a little swipe at him or something and drew that contact, but Sexton's the best. Sexton likes to get in your head. Every time I see him, I always think of his days when he's staring that guy down in a high school game. But Luka's a little emotional sometimes, but he's young. But again, this is two good players, both want to win, and you gotta let moments like that happen. Bad call.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It was a bad call. I just think that I don't even think that was a flagrant foul, to be honest with you, because it wasn't even like, that big of a shot. Yes, it was a low shot, a bit of a low shot, but these guys were boxing out. Luka accidentally, puts his hand in Sexton's groin area, and then Sexton just flops like, Luka Doncic, pushed him or punched him. It was like, come on, man. Like that was like a terrible call by the officials. But James Gonzalez says, I know Luka was mad, but he struck Sexton low. He did strike him low, but I still think that, Sexton flopped a bit and sold that flagrant foul call. James also says Luka is so good, but does little things like this and argues way too much. Yeah, that's totally, that's the thing that's making Luka a bit unlikable, is that he just argues way too much, and he does like stuff like that. And I think he has 16 technical fouls this year. It's insane the number of technical fouls that he has. Also, James Gonzalez says the new rules make that an ejection. Sadly, this is why the NBA has become soft, man. It's because of rules like that makes a player get ejected for that. But fellas, moving into our final NBA topic of the night, the Sacramento Kings over the weekend reportedly are not expected to fire head coach Luke Walton despite another losing season in Sacramento because of financial constraints in Sacramento. Gabe, I'm going to start with you on this. What's your reaction to this news that Luke Walton most likely will survive and keep his job for another year because the Kings can't afford to pay their coach not to coach for them?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm one of those guys. I never cared for Luke. I was never the biggest fan. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he win an award, like a coaching award, a year? I feel like I don't remember, but I think he should have went to the Portland head coach at the time, whatever year that was, when Kermit got injured for most of that year. But yeah, it's one of the things like, how you make an investment, and even if the stock is going down, it's shaky, you just gotta hold on to it. I think Luke is like that. Just gonna have to hold on and wait out.
Lo-Ro, how about you, man? You're a Lakers fan, and you experienced Luke Walton's coaching, unfortunately, as a Lakers fan. What do you make of this news coming out of Sacramento that the Kings are not expected to fire head coach Luke Walton despite another losing season in Sacramento because they can't afford to pay Luke Walton his buyout money to not coach for the team?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say Luke Walton is great. Is a great coach for young players like this Kings roster. But the thing with the Kings is they want to take it over the hump and get into a playoff game. That's kind of like my concern for the Kings. But I think management is delusional for saying this, because I just feel like that since the Kings have another losing season and they have taken a significant step back since parting ways with Dave Yeager as their head coach. If I were Vivek, I think the Kings should fire Luke Walton as their head coach and get a new head coach, because I said this a long time ago, and one of the shows I did with you guys, Luke Walton would have been a great fit in the college ranks, especially coaching at the University of Arizona. That could have been a great job for him. But at the same time, I just think if the Kings choose to keep him one more year, then I'm like, what are you even thinking? Luke wasn't good with the Lakers, and then he's with the Kings, and I even think that he is going to help develop guys like De'Aaron Fox. He's doing a good job developing De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton and also Marvin Bagley. But I'm like, if you can develop those guys into stars, but I just feel like that what the Kings want to do is to get to the playoffs.
I agree with you, Lo-Ro. I think that this is a stupid decision by the Sacramento Kings front office and management not to fire Luke Walton, because Luke Walton, when you look at his coaching record, the guy only became a head coach because he had the opportunity, the golden opportunity to get Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and that 73-9 Warriors team. He had that golden opportunity to not only be part of that coaching staff, but also fill in for Steve Kerr while Steve Kerr was hurt, and he went 24-0 to start, went 39-4 in Steve Kerr's absence. That was a really, really talented basketball team. And when Luke Walton got his own head coaching jobs, he's been exposed. He's been exposed as a terrible coach. With his first year with the Lakers went 26-56, and then his second year they had a marginal improvement. They went 35-47, and then in his final season with the Lakers, they were 37-45, and then everybody was like saying, oh, Luke Walton, the reason why he struggled with the Lakers and with LeBron is because, he's not good with a veteran team. And it was also because of all that chaos and turmoil that was going on in Los Angeles. So I was like, fine, well, let's see what he does in Sacramento. If he can do good in Sacramento, then, I will finally acknowledge that he's a good coach. And in Sacramento, with all that young talent and a team that, if you guys remember correctly, the Sacramento Kings, they were on the cusp of making the playoffs under Dave Yeager. They fired Dave Yeager because they thought that Luke Walton was going to be the guy that can take them over the top and end that playoff drought. And Luke Walton, in his first year with Sacramento, they took a big step back. They went 31-41 before the season shut down. And then in this season, the Kings have just been a big disappointment as they've gone 30-38 despite having De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, and all that young up-and-coming talent that was really good under Dave Yeager. And I just think one of the big reasons why the Kings have struggled, it's because of their defense. Like with the Lakers, Luke Walton's teams never played defense in Los Angeles. With Sacramento, it's the same thing. The Sacramento Kings have been giving up, I believe, 120-plus points a game, and you're just not going to win in the NBA if you're giving up that many points a game. So I do think that it's a stupid decision for the Kings to not fire Luke Walton. I think the Kings absolutely should fire Luke Walton because I think Luke Walton is better as an assistant coach than he is as a head coach. And if you're Sacramento, I know you're dealing with budget issues right now, but think about this. If you keep Luke Walton on for another year, and let's say Luke Walton stinks it up again, are we sure the fans are even going to show up? You're going to even have more financial issues, and you're going to have to keep Luke Walton for another year because you didn't fire him like this offseason, and the fans didn't show up and got paid a ton of money to get tickets into that brand new arena of yours. So I do believe the Kings, they need to fire Luke Walton. This is a bad investment. Cut the cord and move on. But going into our comment section, James Gonzalez says, oh, the Kings, they never learn. But I truly understand why. James also says, I agree with Lo-Ro. Luke needs to try coaching in college. Yeah, I think he should have taken the Arizona job. I was, one of the guys telling Luke that he should have taken the Arizona job, but he instead stays in the NBA. Casey says, Luke Walton should be fired. Best fit as an assistant. Maybe he could be a good college head coach, but he's not good as a pro coach. Totally agree with you on that. And James Gonzalez says, Kings are forever stupid for letting go of Dave Yeager and Mike Malone before that. I don't know if you guys know why Mike Malone was fired, but Mike Malone reportedly was fired because the owner wanted to do this really stupid offensive system where they would have one guy stand on the opposite side of the court during defense, and they would basically cherry pick, play 4-on-5 on defense. The guy would get the rebound, and then they would throw it over to the other end of the court, get an easy basket. It was such a stupid idea, and the owner, Vivek Ranadive, reportedly tried to force that on Mike Malone, and Mike Malone was like, nope, I am not going to do that. That was definitely a smart move by him because he moves on to Denver, and he's now doing great things with the Denver Nuggets. But fellas, moving away from the hardwood and going into the gridiron and onto the field, the Jacksonville Jaguars, fellas, reportedly have signed Tim Tebow, not as a quarterback, but as a tight end to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a one-year deal to reunite Tim Tebow with Urban Meyer and to give Trevor Lawrence another weapon. Gabe, I'll start with you first on this. Talk to me about this. What is your reaction to the Jaguars signing Tim Tebow and bringing him back to the NFL as a tight end?
Well, I'm gonna say a few things. Going to the Ohio State University. Always love to see my man Urban. I was really surprised to even see him become a head coach. With all of his health issues in the past, but it looks like he's gonna have a lot of fun with the team they have. Lawrence, Tebow. I mean, one thing we can say with all the players they have, they're gonna sell tickets. They're gonna get ticket sales, and I think it's going to be a fun year. We'll see how COVID affects it, but I think it's going to be a fun season for that team. I don't know how far they'll go, but I think with Tebow, like I said, I think the biggest thing with him is just, like I'm saying, ticket sales, but he's 33, coming in as a tight end. How good would he be? I don't know much about – of course I know about Tebow and his, time in Florida, but we'll see. Certain players, they love the game of football so much, they can – in most cases, if you're just a great athlete like Tebow is, they can get in there, be special, and make a play, and be effective in those roles. So I'm just really excited to see how effective he'll be. But it's fun. It's a fun time, and that's the main point.
Gabe, I got one question for you before I go to Lo-Ro on this, and that is, are you going to draft Tim Tebow in fantasy football, my man?
Never. Never. It's Kelsey all day or some random Vikings tight end all the time, always.
Lo-Ro, going to you on this. Tim Tebow is returning to the NFL after a 9-year layoff from the NFL. He's now 33 years of age, and he's going to be playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars as a tight end. What do you make of this move by the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I think that this could be beneficial just because I think that Tim Tebow not only can play quarterback, he can run the ball. I think what Trevor Lawrence could do is do those toss plays in the backfield, that you could do those really creative design plays. Like, for example, Lawrence can snap the ball out of the center. He could toss it to Tebow, and Tebow can run it in for the end zone. Or I could see this trickery. Lawrence throws a trick pass to Tim Tebow, and then Tim Tebow throws a deep ball to whoever is catching the ball in the end zone. That's what I kind of think there,
It would basically be the Jacksonville special. That's what basically that play would be. But, my thoughts on this is that, first of all, let me say this. John Alcorn, what I tried to tell you, my man, I tried to tell you that this was coming. But in all seriousness, though, I get this move because, like you said, Gabe, the Jaguars, they're desperate to sell tickets. So that's why they're bringing him in, just to, get the media talking about them and to sell tickets. I don't know how Tim Tebow is going to do because, when you haven't played football, like competitive football, in 9 years and you're going back, it's really tough. It's really tough to, shake all that rust and to get back into football shape. So I'm really interested to see how Tim Tebow can, get back into football shape after all those years of not playing in the NFL, and what's going to happen after he takes his first hit in the NFL. But, I do like this signing actually by the Jaguars, because the Jaguars have nothing to lose. It's a 1-year non-guaranteed contract. The Tebow goes into training camp and he's in shape and he plays his butt off, and he shows that he can not only catch the ball but he can block. Then it would be a really good fit. Plus, he's a good fit in the locker room as well, and in the locker room that Urban Meyer, the culture, that Urban Meyer wants to instill in that Jaguars locker room. So I do like it in terms of Tebow being a good fit in the locker room and, potentially being a good fit on the field. But I just got questions about how is he going to be coming off that massive layoff from for not playing football in 9 years. I think that's kind of what everybody's wondering. How is he going to be physically after not playing football in the last 9 years? Because I think if he's in shape, and if he can step on the field, I think he could make an impact. Like Lo-Ro said, they could have like their version of the Philly special where they, would pitch the ball to Tebow, and then Tebow would just throw a pass to Laviska Shenault or one of their wide receivers and do trick plays like that. Or you could even put Tebow, in the Wildcat and have him run the football because he's really fast. So I think this could be a absolute steal of a signing if you ask me. But going into our comment section, James says that I never thought it would be Tebow time again. Ha ha ha. I don't think any of us thought that Tim Tebow would ever come back to the NFL. James says this is a great way to sell tickets for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Totally agree with you, James, on that. Also, James says I would hope the other tight ends on the Jaguars roster plays better because of this Tebow stint. Hey, that's a point that I don't think we even talked about. This could force the other tight ends on the Jaguars roster to step their game up, because who wants to be the guy losing their roster spot to Tim Tebow, a guy that's never played tight end and hasn't played in 9 years? I think that it's a great tactic for Urban Meyer to use in Jacksonville. And also James says, Tebow Wildcat offense, ha ha ha. Hey, who knows, man? Maybe we could be seeing a lot of that next year from Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer. Also, James says, I know for years Jaguars fans, they wanted Tim Tebow as their quarterback. Well, James, they might get him as their quarterback, but only on, trick plays like the Jacksonville special. And Corey Goodrich says, by the way, Corey, thanks so much for tuning into our show tonight. We really appreciate you. Corey says, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers? He wants out of Green Bay. Lo-Ro, I will, go to you first on this. I wasn't here to talk to you guys about the Aaron Rodgers situation, but what do you think about Aaron Rodgers and all the drama that's going on in Green Bay? And do you believe that Aaron Rodgers has played his final snap as a Green Bay Packer?
Well, first of all, I don't think Aaron Rodgers has played his final snap in Green Bay. I expect Aaron Rodgers to be in the Green Bay Packer uniform come week 1, but I think that this drama is just out of hand. I'm going to say, in my opinion, that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to deny all these reports.
Gabe, how about you, man? Do you believe that, or first of all, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers and, all that drama that's going on? And do you believe that Aaron Rodgers has played his last snap as a Packer?
Oh, well, like I said, like the headlines, sometimes they're conflicting. Again, I think the main thing is, he said he wants out. I'd be really mad, about how their productivity over the last few years, especially, that last play of that game in the playoffs. Like, what was that? I feel like Aaron Rodgers just took over and did him, because he's one of those players that can do what he wants and no one's going to say anything. Like, it's Aaron Rodgers, bro. But I think the main piece is, if it was going to happen, don't you think a trade or something should have happened? I know the 49ers offer something, a decent package. I know there's other teams that were interested. I think by holding out, you're missing. If they want to do that, they're missing all those trades. And I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't mind seeing Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy.
Hey, he was great on Jeopardy, man. But in terms of Aaron Rodgers, I've said this like so many times on this network. I think Aaron Rodgers has played his final snap with the Green Bay Packers because when you look at how disgruntled he's been with the Packers organization throughout the years, I understand the frustration because first you fire his quarterback's coach without letting him know, without giving him prior notice, and he had to find that out via Twitter. That's already embarrassing enough. And then you draft Jordan Love without giving him, prior notice of that pick that you were going to do that. When Minnesota drafted Kellen Mond, Minnesota called up Kirk Cousins like 5 minutes before the pick, and they were like, hey, we're drafting Kellen Mond, by the way. We just wanted to give you a prior notice. And I'm sure like other teams have done that with their veteran starting quarterbacks. You have to give your starting quarterback, especially a guy like Aaron Rodgers that has the stature of Aaron Rodgers, you have to give him prior notice if you're going to do something like that. And also the general manager has reportedly been backstabbing him in the organization. So I truly understand why he's been so frustrated with the organization. And not to mention, Gabe, you brought up a great point with Matt LaFleur, not letting Aaron Rodgers, go for it on fourth down at the 6-yard line when you're down. I believe it was 6 or 7 points at that time. That was just a really stupid decision. But I understand everything why Aaron Rodgers is upset. And there's been reports, I think, that Aaron Rodgers, if the Packers don't trade him, that he is going to either retire and, host Jeopardy like Gabe said, or he's going just to pull a Carson Palmer and hold out until the Packers do in fact trade him. So I think, the Packers, I say training camp. I think when training camp starts, we're going to have a resolution to this saga. And I think the most likely outcome is that Aaron Rodgers gets traded because I think the Packers, when each day that passes, their trade leverage or their trade compensation that they would get, it goes down every day that passes. Because if Aaron Rodgers decides to hold down and be like, hey, I don't need football. I'm already getting paid so much money. I don't need football. And he holds out, then, teams won't know if he's truly retired or not. And, they're not going to be giving you the compensation that you would want. So I think that Aaron Rodgers has definitely played his last snap with the Packers. Christy Wilson says Tebow signing with the Jags is just very weird to me. Totally agree with you. Corey says, my girlfriend is a big Packers fan. She's not very happy. James Gonzalez says the new rumor is Rodgers to Denver. I need that type of negativity as a Raiders fan. Have so much negativity already. Ha ha ha. Oh, he meant I don't need that type of negativity. Totally agree with you, James, on that. Because, man, James, I feel bad for you. Because imagine in your division, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert. As a Raider fan, that's going to suck if that's your division. And also, let's see. But moving on to our final topic of the night, and that comes in the world of baseball, and it involves Lo-Ro's team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Lo-Ro, the Dodgers yesterday, they lost 2-1 to the Los Angeles Angels, losing the Freeway Series to the Angels and dropping their 5th consecutive series. After losing the game yesterday to the Angels and losing their 5th consecutive series, what's your level of concern right now surrounding your Dodgers?
I am not overly concerned at the moment because knowing the Dodgers, they're a team that overcomes adversity. This team is so deep. They have a ton of depth, especially from pitching to position players. I think that the Dodgers will be just fine. I just feel like that they're slumping right now because their offense isn't able to get going. They can't hit with runners in scoring position. Their starting pitching has been great. The bullpen has kind of been a little bit erratic, but I just feel like that the reason why the Dodgers are not playing so well right now is because they just can't get runners home.
For me, I think that when you look, first of all, the Dodgers are going to make the playoffs. Anybody that thinks the Dodgers are going to miss the playoffs, you're absolutely delusional. You need to be drug tested immediately because this team, they just won the World Series. Then they go out and what do? They add the best pitcher on the free agency market, adding him to an already really stacked team. And when you look at the Dodgers division right now, the Giants, they're 20-14. I like the Giants story, but I don't think the Giants can keep this up. The Padres, they're 19-16. The Padres, they're here to stay. And then you have the Dodgers, who are 18-17 currently. The Dodgers, they're going to get their act together because baseball is a very long season. We're only in May right now, and the Dodgers, they're slumping right now, and they have so many injuries right now. I think Bellinger, correct me if I'm wrong, Lo-Ro, I don't think Bellinger is still back in the lineup, right?
Bellinger saw today that he released a video of him running again, and it's a good sign that pretty soon the Dodgers will be getting some reinforcements back in their lineup.
Exactly. Bellinger is still out of the lineup. They're going to get reinforcements. Their hitters are going to snap out of the funk that they're in right now. Things like this happen in baseball all the time. I've been watching baseball for a long time, so I know that, teams go through these ups and downs throughout the season. It's a marathon, folks. It's not a sprint. So the Dodgers, they're going to be fine. I expect the Dodgers to be the kings of the NL West once again. But the big thing that I have with the Dodgers is how many more losses can you go, or how many more series can you lose, because you're going to be in a really tight race with the San Diego Padres. You can't dig yourself that deep of a hole and expect to climb out of it and still, get past the Padres for this division, because the Padres, they are a stacked team as well. And if you dig too deep of a hole, I just don't see the Dodgers recovering from it and getting past the San Diego Padres. But still, it's a very long season. I think the Dodgers will be fine. James Gonzalez says that the Dodgers are just banged up right now and they're not playing well. But luckily for them, it's only May. Totally agree with you on that. Also, James Gonzalez says, credit to the Bay Area teams for their hot start. How about them Oakland A's, man? Best team or second best team in baseball right now. Best record in the American League. And it feels so good after, the start that they got. They started with, which was 0-6. It was just not a fun time. But fellas, it's been a tremendous show tonight, but it's time to move into tonight's final thoughts. All right, fellas, it's been a great show. We are an hour and 6 minutes into this program. But Lo-Ro, I'll start with you first on this. What is your final thoughts for tonight's show?
I'm looking forward to the NFL releasing the schedule. I'm anxious to find out who the Patriots are going to be playing their first game with, along with the Rams and Chargers. And then I expect the Dodgers to get out of their losing streak beginning tomorrow when they begin a long homestand with the Seattle Mariners. And then I expect the Lakers to get out of that 7th spot in that play-in round and then play the number 6 seed like I talked about. But you think the Lakers should just stay in the play-in round just so that they don't have to play the Clippers. So that's kind of like my final thoughts. I know it was a good show today, guys.
Yeah, definitely. It was an excellent show. Gabe, thanks for joining us tonight on Wild Sports Talk, man. It was a great show tonight with you on the program. Looking forward to, the new podcast that me and you are starting. It's going to be a fun podcast. But what is your final thoughts for tonight's show?
First of all, thank you, Isaiah. Thank you, Lo-Ro. Pleasure. And, again, just watching the NFL season, I was super happy for the draft. So just waiting to start to see how these players will play. And you know me, Isaiah, I can't wait for fantasy football. I think for the pressing matters, let's tune in for how the NBA shapes out for the playoffs. We're going to have to see how the conferences end up. And I'm ready to see these playing games. There's just some controversy. Some people think they shouldn't be a thing. Some people think they incentivize teams from not tanking. There's pros and cons to both things. But I think it's going to be an interesting time regardless. And I hope the teams at the top of the West and the teams at the top of the East actually show up this year. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, man. It's going to be a great, final week of this regular season this week. So there's going to be a lot of drama, a lot of great games. Can't wait to see how it shakes out. But before I get into my final thoughts, I want to take the time, as usual, to thank all of our fans for tuning in. I want to thank Corey. I want to thank James Gonzalez. I want to thank Christy Wilson, Casey King, and also Adam Barber, and also Freddie Henderson, as well as Callum McClurk for tuning into our show tonight. We really appreciate you guys all taking the time to join us on our program tonight. But my final thoughts is, first of all, Gabe, it was great having you on the show. Looking forward to that, GI Sports podcast that we're going to start once again. And secondly, man, I know your Eagles got Devontae Smith, but we got Trey Lance, and you're going to be watching Trey Lance curb stomp your Eagles for the next 10 to 15 years. But and definitely looking forward to fantasy football as well. I'm definitely going to bounce back this year because I got a sour taste in my mouth. But final announcements that we got, folks. I don't know if you guys saw this on my Facebook timeline that I posted yesterday, but I'm very proud and ecstatic to announce that Adam Barber of Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, Adam Barber, will be joining myself and Lo-Ro on Wild Sports Talk for the next 3 weeks. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we will be, going on the air and chopping it up about football, basketball, and baseball. So want to welcome Adam to Wild Sports Talk. Looking forward to talking to him about, football, basketball, and baseball, and all the other sports that are going on right now. But folks, it's been a great show. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our show tonight. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and folks, we will see you back on here on Wild Sports Talk as Adam Barber makes his Wild Sports Talk debut on Thursday. Have a great night, everybody.
No stress, I've been through all